Just coming on to talk about Kent, as many of you will be familiar with, Kent is the two main ports at the short straits, the Port of Dover and the Eurotunnel terminal, of course, are extremely busy. A lot of HGVs come in and out of Kent, and the government is working with the local Kent Resilience Forum to make sure that that traffic flows smoothly. Many of you will be familiar with Operation Brock, which was put in place last year in preparation for No Deal. So we're working, as I said, with Kent Resilience Forum to get that in place again, perhaps extending clauses in the legislation as need be. That should be in place by the end of October, so that there will be clear road layouts in Kent. Any HGVs can queue in a reasonable way and get through the ports. If hauliers don't comply with the requirements of Operation Brock and try to slip around the back way, there may be on-the-spot fines issued. But more detail about Operation Brock and how it will be set up will be coming soon. I should say that we're talking to you today about our border operating model that was published on the 13th of July. As I said, it's going to be updated and we've got more detail to share. We in the Border and Protocol Delivery Group are working with our friends in embassies across the EU to develop a whole suite of industry days and further webinars in the months ahead. This is not the only event that we'll be running with you. There will be an opportunity to come to other events. I see Christina nodding. Other events, and we'll make sure that you have all the detail you need, and in fact that the technology will work. Ideally, we'd be out seeing you face to face and have an opportunity to chat and have coffee in the margins and address all those issues. But sadly, our friend COVID-19 is preventing that. But we are here virtually, and generally the systems are working and holding up. And even though I have the children in the house today, the Wi-Fi is holding up. But I'll stop rambling on for a moment and just show you something we've prepared to help our ministers understand the movement of goods. I'd like to say this is a very simple example of an export from the UK, in fact Stoke-on-Trent, to France. I'm going to talk you through this, and my colleagues from HMRC and others, this will be new to you, but I think a lot of the content will be familiar to you. But it's just to give you an example of the kind of movement we have. We will prepare one for later events that gives the full journey, and perhaps, as I said, we'll build up and do a more complex one and do something with sanitary and phytosanitary requirements, perhaps fish or something. But just to talk you through this, and apologies, it's very small and hard to see on the screen, but when we share the slides with you, you'll be able to study it at your leisure. So if we take Patricia, she works in a Staffordshire-based pottery firm. As many of you may be aware, Stoke-on-Trent is very famous for its pottery. So naturally, a French restaurant owner would want the very best. So they are ordering their plates from Patricia in Stoke-on-Trent. So Patricia's been preparing well despite COVID-19. She's taken the necessary steps. She's got herself an EORI number, and she's ensuring that her pottery is compliant with EU labelling and marketing rules. She goes in and submits a customs declaration and a safety and security export declaration. No waiver on those. So the export declaration and the safety and security declaration must be submitted by Patricia. She submits that and she waits then for the all clear from government to grant her permission to progress. So government then assesses the declarations and grants, in this case, they approve Patricia and they grant her the permission to progress to the port. Patricia has she has been speaking to her French importer, Hero, and he as well has been preparing. He has got his EU EORI number, and he is aware and knows that he has to make a French safety and security declaration and a customs import declaration, and he has done this. So he has told, and between them they've employed Chris and Chris's firm to drive the crockery from Stoke-on-Trent to France. So they're aware that the export declarations, Chris and his team are aware, the export declarations and the import declarations in the EU have been done. So Chris, the driver, turns up to Patricia's warehouse to collect the goods. He's a diligent haulier, and as he's loading the goods, he ensures that he's got his movement reference number. He or his colleague back at the office has logged on to our smart freight system and confirmed that, yes, they have the EU import declaration has been done, as is the safety and security declaration. And they said they don't need any special certificates, so they are good to go, and they've got their Kent access permit. As you can see, the HGV heads off and goes down to the port. Once they get to the port, the carrier, they've decided to go the Dover to Calais route. They could have chosen the tunnel, but they've gone on the ferry today. So it is the carrier's responsibility, of course, to submit the EU Safety and Security Declaration. Many of you in the call will be aware of that. But also the the ferry operator will want to be assured that the Safety and Security Declaration is done. So Chris has signed up to the terms and conditions of carriage. So the ferry operator, I should say, is satisfied that the Safety and Security Declaration is done, and the the truck is free to go. During the crossing, the detail is passed to the French systems, and many of you will be familiar with the French Brexit SI system, and that will analyse the information. The French customs officials will analyse the information, and they will consider whether they want to pause the truck on arrival in Calais and inspect the goods, and if not, they will let the truck go through. So Chris will sit in the driver's lounge and keep an eye on the televisions that will be available on the ferries to show whether his truck, his license plate will come up to show whether it's green, orange or red. And when it's orange, it's just thinking about it. So if he gets the green, as he does in this case, once he arrives in Calais, he is free to leave the port. If he had been selected for a checking at the French port and he needed to share some paperwork with the local officials and so on, he will have to use the French commies, that is the port runners that the French ports are putting in place to assist in carrying that paperwork between the two. And the French have been very helpful in giving us more detail about that. So we are including elements of that in our border operating model and in our presentations as we go through the weeks and months ahead. So the truck is free to leave, in this case, the Calais port, and drive to Harold's restaurant with the pottery. And of course, then any duty and import VAT are now due to be paid once the consignment has arrived in the EU. That looks all very simple. There are nuances and detail beyond this, and of course there's lots of links on gov.uk, but that was a very simple movement. We will build up, as I said, in future events to talk about more complex ones, and we will be producing more and more online and on gov.uk to help you through this. And I hope that helps, but on there. I think that's probably enough for me for the moment. We've had a number of questions in, and I think we'd like to perhaps get stuck into those, Joe, if we can.